right. Hey, welcome to a special edition of the Skol Hop. I'm Evan.
I'm Austin.
I'm Forrest.
We're more than a couple of dudes now from Iowa who like drinking beer. And
we're a few dudes.
I'm not from Iowa, but across the river.
You're in Iowa right now.
I am in Iowa.
Yeah, and you're an honorary Skol Hopper, too. So.
I am, somehow.
Yeah.
Third time on the show.
Yeah, I appreciate the invite again.
Yeah.
We couldn't do this show without you. So this is really more for necessity than anything else. But
So if you haven't gathered yet, we are in a garage. We're in Austin's garage.
yeah, sorry for the mess, guys. I couldn't clean everything up.
My garage isn't any better. So
It's a garage.
But we're in the garage because
It's brew day.
it's brew day.
It's brew day. We are brewing the Skol Hop.
It's happening.
Oh, my dog's going to make an appearance, too. Surprised she didn't come in. That's all right. All right, Forrest.
Yes.
You're here, one, because you're our friend and we love you. But two, specifically here today because we are brewing a beer that you created. You came up with this recipe, and now you're the captain of the ship of our brew day. Tell us about the beer we're brewing.
Yeah, so, I mean, several months ago, we were talking about how you really wanted to make a beer to honor, your podcast, Skol Hop. So what we did was, like you've mentioned before, took Evan and your favorite styles of beer, so kind of like an amber and then more of an IPA. So we are making a hoppy amber ale.
I love it. I love it so much. I'm so excited to try this beer. It's a sad thing because we're not really going to be able to try it for like a month or so.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. The whole thing will be about a month away. So, but we'll get the smells and a little bit of the taste, just not the finished product.
Yeah.
And this is my first time ever being a part of a brew in any capacity. So I've just been enjoying watching the process and trying to stay out of the way.
Well, no. You've done a lot already, but as I mentioned before,
grain in.
Yeah, that's the most important. But it's a lot of sitting around. If you've ever made beer before, it's a lot of sitting around. So what else can you do but crack one open?
Yeah, and we should talk about this.
Probably the most important part of brewing is cracking one open. Like the beer that you brew doesn't count if you didn't drink a beer while you were brewing it. Correct?
That's exactly.
Yeah, that's how I see it. And Forrest, you kind of we didn't really plan this one to be on the show right now, but you brought us kind of in jest a little bit, right?
I
did. So was it last week that I mentioned one of the worst beers I ever had was this like 420 beer, and it tasted like that substance smells in every worst way possible. So Forrest took upon himself to bring us a beer called, what's it called, Forrest?
It is called Mary Jane.
So it is the Mary Jane Amber Caramel Malt. Where's it from? Who brews this one?
Grange Brewing in Mount Pleasant, Iowa.
Yes.
I have not had this brewery before, so that was another reason why I wanted this beer.
Yeah.
But I had my reasons. So.
Yeah, so you kind of got it jokingly because
Yes.
I said the one 420 beer was the worst, and then you saw the Mary Jane hemp seed beer, and we all cracked one open, and it's actually pretty good. It's
really good.
Like, there's nothing bad about this beer at all.
It's probably not as hoppy as the beer we're brewing is, but it actually has that nice amber malty flavor. So it kind of pays tribute to what we're trying to aim for.
Yeah. Like I said, I think it was last week, I've never been one to partake in that substance. But everybody who's anybody has probably smelled that substance before. So there's definitely hints of that smell, right?
It almost more has like an incense type
Yeah.
smell
I would
to
agree.
it. And it's not overpowering. It's not bad, and
kind of the same way some
Interesting.
like cocktails you get if they like light the wood on fire and it's like smoke infused.
Yeah.
This is kind of like a nice hint of that smoky-ish, Mary Jane-ish flavor. I like it. I like it a lot. I'm surprised I like it. So thank you, and I'm glad that joke blew up in your face a little bit.
Well, joke's on me, I guess, but I'm glad you enjoy it because I was going to make you suffer through it regardless. So.
I mean, I was going to drink it all the way, but, oh, man, I think back to that one beer I tried of my friends, and it was I couldn't have. I would have. It would have come up before the can was empty. This one's pretty good.
We need to Skol here.
All right.
To make this official.
Skol.
Hail.
Oh, Forrest again is a Michigan fan, and he and I have a little tradition. I say Skol probably way too much in my natural life. But of course, every time I open a beer, or I don't say cheers, I say Skol, as we should, right?
That's Vikings what it fans. Means.
You know?
You should. Skol means cheers.
Probably in the last couple of years, I kept trying Forrest every time. We drink a lot of beers together. Every time I'd say Skol and just want him. I think he started off just saying cheers or like, whatever you'd say. And then eventually you're like, you know what? Hail, because hail to the victors for Michigan, right?
Yeah, it's you brought me to that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, hey, and now even to the point that our kids are running around saying Skol and hail, and we're good parents.
I mean, my daughter is very obsessed with the brewing process, so she was pretty excited to when it's a brew day. So I don't know what kind of parent I am, but
no, that's a fantastic parent. And you know what? It can be a family business. You can start up the Miller Brewing Company.
Yeah,
that could be totally yours.
Disclaimer for your audience that I do not let my daughter drink the finished product.
Sure.
So
obviously that goes without saying.
Just want to put that out there.
When she's old enough.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, she can be a brew assistant.
Oh,
an assistant brewer before. Yeah, she could probably do that now.
Yeah.
Early elementary age. Yeah, she could totally do that.
I worry sometimes with what she's going to say at school. So
respect for the process.
Fun times.
Yeah.
So.
Well, in light of the Minnesota-Michigan little rivalry that we've got going here, we've got some fodder here for conversation. I mean, some Michigan players coming up in the draft that could end up playing for the Vikings.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know if you knew this, and I didn't know until they posted it. 18 Michigan players that were invited to the NFL Combine. That's a record.
Wow.
LSU, when they had Joe Burrow, had 16. So
wow.
18 players. So there's definitely a chance that your Vikings grab one or two of these Michigan players. So
and the Vikings have 7 or 8 picks in this draft as of right now in mid-February.
Could have more, yeah. Depending.
And they currently hold the number 11 pick. The talk on Twitter this last week or so. Ever since the draft talk started at the beginning of the year, J.J. McCarthy, quarterback of the Michigan Wolverines, I almost said the Michigan Panthers.
We're in the
wrong league.
The USFL, is that what they were?
Whatever. I think it's the XFL now.
They combined.
They combined,
or the UFL.
The
UFL. Now they combined, so I forget what the new...
It's like the XFL and the USFL.
Yeah, I think it's the UFL. But
that's not the UFL.
That's for another, I keep saying it wrong.
Either way.
It's for another show. But JJ, for a while now, I've seen him talked about as like a late first, early second, in that 25 to 35 range as far as overall picks. But for some reason, something has come up. Pre-combine, school pro days and everything, JJ is all of a sudden now seen as this like top 10 type pick, and people are saying he might not even be available when Minnesota picks at 11. So You watched him really the last 2 full years. Yeah,
I mean, to your point, I think he was undervalued just because Michigan offense, I mean, they're not a pass-happy team. Why do you need to be when you can run the ball so well? But that doesn't take away from when JJ needed to throw, he made the throws. And I mean, you look back at his tape, he does it well. He's very accurate. He's got a strong arm, and I think he's going to be a winner in the NFL. Give him a few years in a appropriate team offense. Yeah.
And I think he could be that perfect kind of a blank canvas for head coach Kevin O'Connell to really get his hands on and mold in the perfect way. Kirk Cousins, who I'm a huge fan of and has always been a good quarterback and will continue to be a good quarterback wherever he plays, whether it's Minnesota from here on out or somewhere else. Kirk Cousins, when Kevin O'Connell came in, was not really like that moldable. He's an established professional.
He's been in the league for quite a while.
So you know what he's good at. You know what he is not as good at. Kevin O'Connell, sure, they worked together and probably found out the best ways to do things in KOC's offense and stuff. But Kevin O'Connell was coming in and had to kind of transform what he does to what Kirk does. The idea of a rookie quarterback coming in, especially with a JJ who seems to be a moldable guy, he can kind of do a little bit of everything pretty well. KOC might be able to mold him into the professional that he could be.
I would maybe play devil's advocate a little bit there, because we saw what Kevin O'Connell does with other quarterbacks once Kirk came out, and nothing seemed to work.
That's true.
And that would be a concern of mine moving forward with a rookie quarterback, whether it's J.J. McCarthy or any of the other big-name quarterbacks that are probably going to go in the first round. Yeah. It's going to take some adjusting at the very least, and it might be a complete flop.
Yeah,
too.
it could be. Absolutely.
We just don't know yet.
Yeah. I will say, and I think you'll agree with me here, when KOC had to work with quarterbacks not named Kirk Cousins, I mean, you're literally talking about he had to try to win with a guy that
with two
didn't
career
know
backups
anybody else's name
and a rookie.
Yeah, like I mean, you think maybe Mullins would have had a little bit more success, but his thing was playing hero ball and throwing it up when he shouldn't have. I think he could still play in that KOC offense, but yeah, I think you make a good point. But I think with a full, rookie mini camp, OTAs, literally probably sharing an office for an entire offseason. If you got a rookie quarterback and in theory no Kirk Cousins, KOC's entire focus is going to be that quarterback. And then, of course, all the other head coaching duties. But I think KOC is going to default to making sure that rookie quarterback is what he wants him to be.
And I would say that JJ, obviously working under Jim Harbaugh, who has been known to develop quarterbacks. I mean, Andrew Luck and such. So you see that he might already have that edge or step ahead of some of these other quarterbacks in the draft. So
that's something that I hadn't really considered until just now when you said it. What pick do the Chargers have?
The Chargers have Herbert, so they're not taking a JJ.
You sure?
I think the only way they would take a JJ is if
he fell,
for some crazy reason he was still available in the third round. That's not going to happen. But with Justin Herbert, they're not going to go for
That's fair.
McCarthy.
That's fair.
However, if the Chargers if he had walked into a Chargers team that didn't have an established quarterback, if they were rolling with Tyrod Taylor or whoever, oh, absolutely, that'd be the talker of the season. We'd almost already have McCarthy Chargers jerseys up in the store right now. But yeah, I mean, it's a good point. But
so where does JJ go? I mean, is he early second round, late first round?
I think he's
is he
probably
early?
in the. What I'm looking at is probably anywhere between 10 and 20. So
okay,
yeah.
Where do you think he stacks up with the other big name? The Caleb Williams, the Drake May, those guys. Where does he stack up?
I'm kind of bitter, so. I'm not a Caleb Williams fan. I think he has all the talent in the world, but I think his attitude off the field is horrible, and even on the field is horrible. So, and then Drake May, I'm probably bitter because of the Mitch Trubisky. So
the North Carolina connection there.
So we'll see, but yeah, I don't know. Excuse me.
Yeah, man, stay alive, man, over there. I think this hemp beer is making you cough it up a little bit. Jeez. Yeah, let it out. We always have editing abilities as well. So you think JJ is probably somewhere
I tell you, I think
third
the
or
best
fourth best?
my personal feeling, the best quarterback on the board, Bo Nix.
Yeah, okay, I could see that. I mean, success in multiple programs. Obviously, he's shown that he can adapt well. I could see that.
And I just don't have a lot of background knowledge on any of these guys.
Yeah.
I've watched some college football the last couple of years, but not a ton. So, yeah, it'll be really interesting to see the order of how they're picked and who picks them and who trades up, who trades down, who, it's going to be crazy.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how it goes.
It's going to be
I think
one of the most watched drafts, I think.
Oh, yeah. The top 10 picks you could have, I mean, in theory, you could have 5 quarterbacks in the top 10 picks. Definitely in the first round, you're talking more than 5 quarterbacks in the first round.
Oh, easily.
I'm excited to see if the Vikings trade up. I think at this point I'll be a little disappointed if they don't trade up, if they don't re-sign Kirk Cousins. If you sign Kirk Cousins, then you can stick at 11 and just pick the best guy available, maybe even trade back. But there's a whole nother talker there on if that's the best thing to do is to sign Kirk. We've beat that horse to death, and everybody else has too. But
Yeah.
At this point, I'm almost of the mindset that I'd be surprised if they do sign Kirk Cousins and if they don't trade up to get one of the higher named quarterbacks, who apparently JJ is somehow, pre-combine, pre-pro day, is working himself back into that upper echelon of quarterback conversation. And ultimately, I have been on record, I had never heard Jordan Addison's name before draft night 2023.
Yep.
And when he was picked, I think you even said, like, you went to sleep and, like, woke up in time to see the Jordan Addison pick, and then you saw it and you were, like, pissed.
I was mad.
Yeah.
I wasn't happy with that pick, but it turned out to be really good.
Yeah, so far he's probably...
I don't understand this because as a Bears fan, I was probably more excited about your guys' pick than you were as Vikings
you were excited
fans.
for us, not in like, oh, yeah, the Vikings blew it.
Yeah,
like,
that's funny. That's funny.
I was sitting right next to you, and
You
you
were-
were saying,
we were.
he's really good. Like,
Yeah, I knew he was going to be a good compliment to JJ. So
and
Well,
even
and-
stepping up when JJ went
Yeah,
down.
that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
He really filled in that gap in a big way. And now that hopefully they're both healthy going into the 2024 season, and
Yeah.
whoever's throwing on the ball, hopefully they can find them. And
All that to say, at least the two of us, we don't really know exactly what we're talking about. We're just going off what Sports Center tells us. You do have a little bit more knowledge of these guys because you're a huge college football fan.
Oh, that's my jam. I mean, I'm a Bears fan, but my true love is, like I said before and on the other podcasts, I'm a college guy, so
Yeah. No.
I follow it pretty closely. And I'm excited to see how the NFL Combine turns out, to see where teams are thinking now. So
And to that point, Skol Hoppers, look out. We're going to have Forrest on around draft time. Maybe right before, maybe right after, maybe both. Forrest can be our resident draft mind.
well, I'll try, but it'll be fun regardless.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think we'd be remiss to not talk about current Wolverines on the Vikings
Yeah,
roster.
and before we go through, can I get a time?
Oh, yeah.
We are doing a brew
mid-brew.
day, so I need to make sure our times are good.
We're
So
looking at 12 minutes.
okay, I need to start up, and then we'll continue the
All right,
conversation.
I
real
will
quick.
intro who I'm going to talk about here. So, to my knowledge, the Vikings have one Michigan Wolverine on the roster currently.
Josh Metellus.
Josh Metellus.
Yep.
The Swiss Army knife, the guy that the league fell in love with, the guy that could literally play every position on the defense.
The dude's amazing.
And special teams probably. He's awesome. Yeah. He was a Michigan Wolverine, and Forrest has said, as a fan of the Wolverines, he's never been a terrible football player, but he's definitely flourished more as a Viking than he ever did for the Wolverines. Is that right?
That's exactly right. I mean, you could tell he was a good player on Michigan squad, but you look back, I mean, he wasn't like obviously heavily drafted.
Yeah.
So he had all the tools in place, but I think he's really developed obviously more in the pros than he did at Michigan. So I'm happy for him,
Yeah. He was on the Power Trip morning show on KFAN a week or two ago, and one of the guys on the show asked him, like, hey, what was more nerve-wracking, your first start at the big house or your first start in the NFL? And I thought his answer was really, really cool. He was saying, I think he got his first start. He was either late freshman year, early sophomore year. I don't know if he redshirted, but he said he waited a little bit before he started. He wasn't a day one starter at Michigan, but walking into the big house was like just this insane 100,000 fan, terrifying, crazy, awesome feeling. Whereas when he made his first start for the Vikings in the NFL, he said he had already been in for 4 years. So he'd already been doing the work,
Right.
Working out, being around the team, studying the plays, like at the stadium, like he was almost like itching to get in, like I'm ready as a Viking. Whereas at Michigan, he was like soaking it all in, and it was crazy. So I think he said it was more nerve-wracking at his first start in Michigan than in the NFL.
Absolutely. I mean, I think I remember him. He probably a 3-star recruit coming out of high school.
Okay.
Michigan grabbed him. So, I mean, definitely had the talent,
State of
obviously,
Florida
if you're playing for Michigan, but not one of those guys that is like a 5-star, recruit coming out of high school. So, yeah, I mean, he's he's really coming into his own.
And he's from Florida, right?
He is from Florida.
So a little bit of a climate change going from Florida to Michigan.
That's right.
I really think with him, Brian Flores was one of those keys to unlock his potential as a player. I mean, he was good at Michigan, and he was, I think, pretty good before Brian Flores because he was drafted and was signed to the active roster in 2020. So he's been a Viking for a while. This this
Even
23
back to the Mike
season
Zimmer era too.
Yeah, this 23 season wasn't his first rodeo, but I think he really made a name for himself and flourished under.
I totally
Flores.
agree with you. Not to cut you off, but yeah, Brian Flores. He's very blitz happy and does a lot of different schemes. So Josh Metellus played under, at the time, Don Brown, the DC at the time at Michigan.
Okay.
He's very similar schemes and styles. So, I'm sure it clicked, like you said, when Flores came in for the job. So,
And I believe Metellus, I'm probably wrong on this, but I believe he has 2 more years left on his contract. He re-upped before the beginning of the 23-24 season.
Yeah.
And I think that was a 3-year extension. So there's either 2 or 3 more years.
2-year extension. He signed on September 7th of this last year.
Okay, so then I would think that's, through the 25 season. So we've got a couple, all that to say, we've got a couple more seasons for sure of Josh Metellus. And I think that will help the transition away from having Harrison Smith in the backfield, whether that's this year or next year. You feel like his retirement's coming. And honestly, we're recording on my phone right now. I'm never going to be surprised if I pull up Twitter at any point between now and sometime the next few years if I see, Harrison Smith say, all right, I'm retiring.
I'll check right now.
Yeah. But having a Josh Metellus on the roster and then a Cam Bynum as well in that, safety backfield area, it's only going to help losing Harrison Smith, who, in my opinion, should be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yep.
Probably, I'll say it till the cows come home. I like Troy Polamalu. I think he was a great football player. Obviously won at least one, if not more, Super Bowls. Kind of changed the game, was really popular.
Best hair in the league, too.
Yeah, and when we were in high school, Polamalu he seemed like the NFL kind of pegged him as like a face of the shield type guy. He seemed like a good guy for the NFL to be like, hey, he's one of our best players, to mark it up. And I think Harrison Smith, who is not as vocal, he's not as promoted by the NFL. If anything, he may be, not as likable. I'm not really finding the right words. He is not the marketability of Troy Polamalu, but I think he's a better football player than Polamalu, and they play similar styles.
I would agree for sure.
So yeah, all that to say, Harrison Smith, first ballot Hall of Famer.
As I said, that's pretty high praise if you're comparing to Polamalu.
And I would say you might be able to compare Polamalu to Smith. I think that's how much I think it's the other way around. But again, to bring it back, I think having a Josh Metellus, one, Harrison Smith has probably made Metellus a better player. And two, keeping Metellus after Harrison Smith retires or moves on is only going to help the Vikings.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So I'm going to throw out a question for you guys then. If there were one Michigan player that the Vikings could get, who is it going to be? Is it JJ? Is it Blake Corum? Or is it some other player?
I'll tell you where I'm at right now. Pre-draft, any of the Kirk Cousins stuff. We need an answer. The Vikings need an answer at running back. And so Blake Corum looks really, really attractive to me, knowing, and you've already mentioned it, Forrest, how successful the Michigan run game was. Granted, he had a buddy who's sticking around.
Yeah,
at
Donovan
Michigan.
Edwards is sticking around for another year, which is not only good for Michigan, but it'll give him a chance to showcase his abilities a little bit more. So.
For sure. But Blake Corum's going to be in the draft, and I don't know. He's probably not a first rounder. He's probably not the 11th pick overall. Yeah, which is what the Vikings currently have.
I think he's second round, maybe third. If he gets in the third round, any team that gets him that's a steal. I mean, for the value, and I'm not saying that biasly. I mean, he's a workhorse, and whoever gets him is going to
Yeah, I would love to see the Vikings pick him up second, third round, somewhere in there.
And he's got a little bit of an injury history to the end of the 22 season. He missed because of what was it, an ACL or something like that?
Yeah, I believe it was ACL.
Yeah. Which ACLs are not the career killers they used to be.
But I mean, you see it all this past season. I mean, obviously he's good to go.
Yep.
It didn't impact him at all.
Yep.
So I think that put it to rest.
Yeah.
So I'd say, yeah, from that perspective, Blake Corum's definitely good. I mean, don't devalue, though, a lot of the linemen, whether it be defensive or offensive side. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of good players on that team. So,
yeah. Well, and the fact of the matter, too, is anytime you have a national championship winning team, whether or not their coach was stealing signals, there's going to be a gluttony of fantastic players on that team. Yeah. And players that will move on and have success in higher levels of football, and you almost can't go wrong with a lot of those guys. To answer your question, though, I'll probably agree. It's either JJ or Blake Corum at this point. The Vikings need help at running back. I'll be very, very upset if they go into the season with the same exact running back room that they went into the 23 season with. There's no excuse for that.
I'd agree. As of watching your Vikings play and hearing about you talking about them on your podcast, the running back definitely is a area where you definitely can improve. So
yep. All right, where are we at on our brew process right now?
All right, so we're probably we're trying to heat up some water to about 200 degrees. So we're gonna put it into the mash tun to give it another 10 minutes, and then we're gonna put that what they call wort, that sweet water from the grains, into the boil kettle. So we're getting close, boys.
I'm excited.
Should we wrap things up here for now? And
yeah.
Maybe we'll come back later.
Yeah.
Give an update.
And Evan, you've been taking video and pictures and everything, so I'm sure you're gonna have a lot to show on the podcast as well later on.
Yeah,
so.
And good opportunity if you're out there listening or watching. Check us out in other places too: Twitter, Facebook, TikTok.
We are everywhere. Just Google the Skol Hop.
Yep, we
will find everything.
And we will guaranteed be posting extra content from this brew day in some of those other places. So check us out, even if you're listening to us a couple months after this.
And I'll even go as you know, I'm a Bears fan, but I enjoy talking because it's not just all Vikings. It's about obviously beer, which is my favorite topic, but just NFL and college football and in general. So it's good conversation. So yeah, definitely give a listen.
Thanks, man.
Nothing better than beer and football.
That's the American way.
That is.
We're just missing pizza or buffalo wings, and then that's it. We hit everything.
Hey, we could DoorDash something right now if we wanted to.
Maybe.
All right. Well, we'll hit pause for now, and we'll check in on our brew process here and come back later.
All right. Skol.
Skol.
Hail.
Hey Vikings fans, Evan here from the Skol Hop, and we just wanted to say thank you again so much for listening to the Skol Hop, and we also wanted to take one more opportunity to let you know that this episode of the Skol Hop has been brought to you by Big Top Ventures. If you're considering taking an all-inclusive trip to either Mexico or Jamaica, reach out to our friends at Big Top Ventures at bigtopventuresllc@gmail.com. Once again, that's bigtopventuresllc@gmail.com. You can get the lowest rate possible on several all-inclusive resorts throughout the region. Big Top Ventures. Step right up to your next big adventure. And thanks again for listening to the Skol Hop. Skol.